Hi pals, hope you're doing all kinds of well. It's been a little minute since I've been on here, so nice to see you again. I have been really busy. I think it's been about a year since I've been on, and in that year I've basically been studying full-time and working full-time, which sounds like an absolutely bonkers thing to do, and it basically was. It was full on, so I didn't really have a lot of time for reading, didn't really have a lot of time for any of my other hobbies, and I definitely didn't have time for booktube, unfortunately. So I don't know how much I'm going to actually return long term on booktube, because I do start back again in August/September at a much more reduced pace with my studies. At least I'll still be working full time, and I'll take probably a third of the credits that I took this year and just take it a lot more relaxed. So that's my plan at the moment, and yeah, I'm looking forward to it being more relaxed. It's been like the summer I've mostly just spent like recovering, to be honest. So I've done quite a bit of reading, which has been really nice, and that's been really good for me as well. But I wanted to come on today and just do like a mid-year check-in of like my reading goals, what I've been reading, like any favourites, favourite genres, just like some kind of check-in on statistics maybe a little bit. And yeah, I think it's going to be fun. I haven't really been updating my Instagram either, so like I just haven't really been talking about books online for quite a while. So it'll be a good like practice for me as well. I think it's going to be really nice to get back in the habit of doing a little bit more of this kind of stuff, because I think it's really good for me. Just like in my speech, I find that when I'm doing booktube, I think more about how I articulate myself, and then it comes into like my everyday life as well. I get better at like speaking my mind and like expressing myself well. And because I've been trying really hard to learn to express myself in Icelandic, I've not really been doing as much of it in English, and so I'm kind of a little bit rusty, I feel. Not that I'm speaking Icelandic all the time every day. I speak majority English, but I just find that my focus is on like, how would I say this in Icelandic? How would I like express myself if I was doing this situation in Icelandic? If I was trying to answer a question that I didn't know how to answer, then I try and like replay it and think it through again. That is what I'm studying at university, by the way, I should say. I live in Iceland. If you're new around here or just recently joined, I live in Iceland, and I've been learning Icelandic now for 3 years. And at the university now, it began last year. So I'm in my second year of the university course in Icelandic as a second language, which is kind of one of the like few options you kind of have at this point. You get to a point where you can kind of understand basic conversations and take part in basic conversations. But for me, like actually getting to that point where I could maybe use it in a professional setting or something, I felt like that was the only thing that I could really do next. So that's what I decided to do last year, and I'm glad I did it. It's really brought my Icelandic like quite a long way, and I feel a lot more confident in my Icelandic. I still have real wobbles. I still don't like, my bending of stuff is absolutely like terrible a lot of the time, but I am still learning. And now I take part in meetings in Icelandic at work. I send emails in Icelandic. I have conversations in Icelandic, and my confidence is just increasing, which is really good. So that's come a long way. But obviously this channel is not about learning Icelandic necessarily, although maybe I could do some videos about that if there was people who were interested in it. I think my pronunciation is terrible, so I wouldn't want to like teach anyone how to pronounce anything or anything like that, but I could definitely talk about my journey so far or things like that, or yeah, that could be kind of fun. But today I want to talk to you about books, and so I want to talk to you about what I've read so far this year. Not everything, but some favourites, maybe some kind of standout books that like brought certain emotions. Maybe I'll talk about like my formats I've been reading in, like genres. Yeah, I'm quite excited. So yeah, hopefully you'll stay with me and we'll have a good wee time today. So to start off, I want to share that I have so far this year read 30 books, which I'm really proud of. Not that books, like the number of books you read matters at all, not at all, but for me, I just felt like what was interesting was I was able to do some reading alongside my studies. I did read a fair amount of like manga and stuff at the same time, because I found the reading pure fiction in English was just like really hard going after reading a lot in Icelandic for my studies. So instead I was reading a lot of manga, which was really nice because it's like a totally different format. It's a lot of images, and it just was like a lot lighter. I was able also like to pick up a manga in a weekend and finish it. I didn't have to like because otherwise I'd be reading a book sort of for like 3-4 weeks with the studies ongoing, and I would often just lose interest in it and kind of just set it aside somewhere. So I really enjoyed that, and I did read quite a lot of manga, but I did also read a fair amount of fiction as well, and I got quite into reading on my e-reader, so I read quite a lot of digital books, which was really good. And I just bought myself one of those like TikTok girly Kindle stands with the little clickers, and that has been an absolute game changer, let me tell you. I have loved it. It's so good. Just like lying in bed or sitting on the sofa and just clicking away through the pages is so much more relaxing. Like I can like get off to sleep so much easier and stuff. So 10 out of 10 would recommend if you get the chance to get yourself one of them. Well, maybe not 10 out of 10 actually when I think about it, because the stand I bought is like a little bit like stiff somehow, like the metal bar, and I switch around between having it on the sofa and having it like next to the bed, and when I'm switching the position of it I sometimes find it a bit like clunky and awkward to kind of get it in the right position. So maybe I would give it like a 9 or a solid like 8.5 or something, because the experience is still really nice. But yeah, so 30 books, and that amounts to 6,214 pages in book format and 28.1 hours in audiobook format, according to what I had logged on Storygraph. As I was saying, I mostly read like print. I read quite a lot of print books, but I did read 27% of the books I read were on ebook and 13 on audio. I was listening to a couple of my books for uni like on audio, because I did find that my audio like my listening comprehension in Icelandic is a lot stronger than my reading comprehension. So if someone's speaking to me, I can understand them a lot easier than if even I would see those same words written down. So I found with some of the books, I was reading them and I was like, I don't really think that I fully understand this book. Switched to audiobook and was like, oh, that's what they're talking about. Okay, that makes a lot more sense. Which is a little bit strange, because Icelandic is a language that you read it and how it sounds is exactly how it looks. But I just don't have that connection or that practice in putting those two together quite yet. So we'll get there. But just now I found it a lot easier to read the course books in audiobook format. So I did do a bit of that. And I read, I think, 2 books maybe in English on audiobook as well. I mostly read contemporary science fiction, manga and LGBTQIA. According to Storygraph, they were my most read genres, and 96% of the books I read were fiction. I only read 4% non-fiction, and honestly I don't know if I even remember what non-fiction was. I'm really not sure. Let me have a look at my... Oh, I'll tell you what it was. It was one I had to read for uni. I had to read Góðir Íslendingar, which was like a non-fiction about a guy who travels around Iceland. It's actually a really cool book. Like I kind of hope it is translated to English at some point. I know that it's... I don't believe it is at the moment, at least. But I do think it would be like a fun read for people who are travelling the country, just to like see the country through an Icelander's eyes. It is quite a different, like, compared to the tourist routes, maybe it is a little bit of a different way of looking at it. And I did really like, yeah, he like connects with communities and stuff like that. And he talks about like what he knows about the communities there, what he knows about the towns, what he knows about their history. Also just his like experience of driving in and like things that stuck out to him as being interesting. He's from Reykjavik, I think, and grew up there, I believe, from memory. And so it is like kind of like a city boy's perspective on rural Iceland as well, which was really like interesting. And I found it very like, if you are just learning Icelandic and you maybe know quite a bit about the country, which was the situation I was in, I found it to be quite an accessible read, because I knew a lot of the geography of the country. I knew a lot of the like what to expect when you went into these places. So it was kind of like familiar content, but some unusual words or language or something new. And it was quite conversational language, which I really prefer to read and to consume because it's much easier for me. So yeah, that was the 4% of non-fiction. I think it was just that one book. But yeah, it was worth reading. I don't think that I've really been in a mood otherwise to read non-fiction. I just haven't really felt like it's something that I'm drawn to at all at the moment. I just want to escape into fictional worlds. I'm not even remotely thinking like, oh, I'd love to leave someone's memoir. Like, I just have no interest at the moment, which is a shame because I used to really like it, but I know that I will come back to it again. It is just that I'm not in that, frame of mind at the moment. So it just is what it is. I'll enjoy my fiction for now. Speaking of reading Icelandic books, at the start of the year I set myself a goal to read, and sorry I keep looking down, I'm looking at my reading journal, and I also keep looking at the window because like cars pass by and I'm getting distracted, so sorry about that. But speaking of reading Icelandic, I set myself a goal at the start of the year to read 12 Icelandic books, and I'm glad to say that I have read overall 6, so I'm halfway through the goal, which is bang on for where I should be in the year. This month and last, after like finishing my exams, I have not touched or looked at anything Icelandic apart from when I go to work and when I'm out and about. I'm not going out of my way to find things in the way I was when I was studying, just because I am exhausted from the studies. And for a while there I was just like, I just can't even look at it, like I can't pick it up. But I know I'll come back to it again, and I'll be anyway starting again in September. I think we'll probably have some books to read for classes. We did last year, we had 4 books in total that we read for classes. So one last semester, one in the first semester and 3 in the second semester. Pretty sure that was the way it was weighted. So it was quite a big jump between the semesters, but it was good to practice in that way. It was not something I'd done before. So yeah, I am just seeing that Helga's coming home, so I'm going to go and say hi, and then I'll come back hopefully and finish the video. Okay, I'm back. But so yeah, I've read quite a lot of, I can't remember what I was even up to there, I was talking about. Let me see. In terms of star ratings that I've been giving books, I gave a lot of 3 stars this year. I've given 19 3 stars, so I've had quite a lot of like fairly good but not amazing books that I've read. I read 10 4 stars and only 1 5 star, which was Things We Do Not Tell the People We Love, which I really, really liked. But I honestly, like, it's a short story collection and it's about kind of like connections with other people and like relationships that have for some reason or another come under strain or broken down, and just like secrets within them potentially. There was like quite a lot of different dynamics within the stories, if I remember rightly, and I thought it was really beautifully written and very like emotionally affecting, but I honestly don't remember it, and I don't know if it's because I read it in January, so it's been a little bit of time's passed, but also just being so much has happened in between with like studying everything. I don't know that I really gave it the time to breathe, so maybe I would revisit that at some point. But I really, really liked it. Other kind of like best books, like honourable mentions if you like, I would say within the 4 star category, because for me a 4 star is a really, really good book. Within that I would say like I just finished Queen's Gambit not long ago, and I really, really liked that. And I also really enjoyed The Midnight Library. Maybe you've heard of these two, they're pretty famous. Like the Queen's Gambit was then made into a Netflix series as well, and it's about a young girl who grows up in an orphanage, and one of the janitors in the orphanage gets her involved in chess, and she just finds that she really loves it and she's actually really good at it, and she pictures the kind of chessboard playing out in her mind, and she can picture her playing on it. And I just thought it was really, really good. It's like kind of really talking about being a woman in a sport where it's sort of male dominated. That's one of the main themes. It also just talks a lot about chess, which I wouldn't say I'm into chess at all, but I found it really interesting to read about. There's bits as well about race as well. She's got a friend who is black, and there's things about kind of how her life, it turns out, compared to this girl, and how their experiences differ within the orphanage. I don't want to say too much to spoil it in case you've not read it or anything, or not seen the TV series, but I would recommend it, and I will actually like to read I would like to watch the TV series as well, just to see how they compare, and also just to see it kind of in TV format. I think it is a book that you can really see like why it would be adapted to TV. It's really good. As for Midnight Library, I really like that one. It's about someone who can visit I don't know if this is actually in the synopsis, but it must be, that's the whole concept. Someone who can visit the different libraries so they visit a library and they can take out books which represent different life possibilities that they have or could have had within like different, I guess, alternative universes maybe, or I don't know exactly how it's framed, but you can basically pick any life you like, and this person goes and visits all these different lives that they could have had. And I thought it was really interesting. I find that like kind of what if thing interesting. Like, what if you'd chosen a different path at that point? What if you'd done something different there? Where would you be now? And this book kind of lets you explore that in the fiction format. I found that really, really good. I really liked it as well. It had like a really like deeper meaning to it, and yeah, I thought it was a really good book. And I've tried Matt Haig's fiction before, never really gone with it, so I was surprised to really like that one, but I was glad that I did. And yeah, I would recommend it. In terms of like books that were like super emotional as well, I would say that's one of the ones that I've read this year, which has been quite an emotional read. Other ones were Half a World Away by Mike Gale. I really liked that one. I thought it was really emotionally affecting. Again, actually, it's about a girl whose brother this time is taken into care, and she is, as an adult, trying to track him down, trying to get in touch with him. And it's about that, and about her, and about their relationship when they do meet. And yeah, that's a real like hits you in the feels. I also liked Mika in Real Life, and I've just realised that these all have a kind of like separation between family theme, which is really interesting. But Mika in Real Life is about a girl who, and a lot about kind of adoption more than anything else, which is really interesting. Mika in Real Life is about a woman who gave a child up for adoption at birth from memory, and she manages to get in touch with the child, or the child gets in touch with her when she's an adult, I believe, or maybe 16 or something. And it's about how she kind of frames her own life to this child, because it hasn't turned out how she might have hoped it would have, and she wants to be seen as successful in the child's eyes. And then, yeah, of course, lives only last so long, so it's about the fallout of that, and I found that really emotionally affecting as well. And I also read right at the beginning of the year a children's book called Sona Talaeg, which is like I speak like this, and it's about like people who are speaking Icelandic as a foreign language, and it's a book aimed at small children. So I think the aim of it is to, both for people who are first language Icelandic and maybe second or third language Icelandic, just to talk about how it's okay to speak with accents, and it's okay to have a different accent, because there is still a bit of stigma about speaking Icelandic with an accent in Iceland, and there is a lot of discourse now happening about that, and about normalising accents, and if you hear an accent, not switching straight to English, like sticking with Icelandic, so people do learn and have incentive to learn and feel part of the community more so. So I felt that book was really emotionally affecting as well, and I would love to own a copy. I think it's a really beautiful book. I'm taking a couple of these questions. I've taken just like general themes, and I'm taking a couple of questions from the like mid-year book tag thing that people do, but I didn't really want to do all of those questions, so I've just kind of picked ones that I found interesting. And another one of those that I liked was books that made you happy. And one of those was definitely My Love Mix-Up, which is one of two series I've been reading this year. The other one was Full Metal Alchemist. They're both manga series. My Love Mix-Up is like super cute and wholesome. It's like a male-male romance, and it's set in school, so it's like kind of cute and cozy and like just very wholesome, and got a lot of angst and like teenage angst in it, and like teenage like strong big feelings, and just like trying to reckon with big changes in life alongside like trying to have this like cute relationship with this boy that he likes. And we see it mostly from one boy's point of view in my experience of the book, at least, but there are snippets of the other guy's point of view as well. So yeah, it's kind of nice. If you like Heartstopper, I would say it's got like similar vibes, but it's more angst and more like kind of anxiety about like the relationship maybe than in Heartstopper, but it's got a lot of like cute little scenes as well, and cute little like, yeah, from memory, like little, like they go to like markets and stuff and have like cute little scenes there. It was one of those ones that I read in between my studies, so my memories are a bit hazy of it, but I really liked it. I thought it was very wholesome. I also just recently read Signal Moon, which is a short story, which was also really nice. I put it in this category of books that made me happy, but I would say it more like made me feel like empowered and like, yes, like I just felt really like good reading it. So I thought I'd put it in that category as well. It's about the people who ran the radios during the Second World War, and it's a bit of a sci-fi take on that. So I don't think this spoils it, but no, it doesn't. So there's two people who, one is in the Second World War and one is in a future time period when there's also a war, and somehow there's some kind of thing happens with radio connections, and they're able to talk to each other, which is really interesting. And yeah, it's just about like how they work together and communicate through this sort of sci-fi supernatural time period. Like, what are the chances of that happening? But yeah, I found that really, really nice story. I've got quite into these little like short stories you get on the e-reader, and just kind of like just a wee snippet of something. I think it's also another one where you can just pick it up and read it in an afternoon or something, and it's quite like light usually. I read another one, Just Out of Jupiter's Reach, which I really liked as well. I thought that was really creative, set in space, and it's about people who go to space to well, how would you describe it? I think they're basically like, from memory now that I'm trying to think about it, I'm trying to think of the details, but they're trying to try out a new technology where they connect with a spaceship and then they go to space, and if they survive for 10 years or something on their own, they have to be completely isolated. If they survive for that period of time, they get a huge payout or something like that. It's another sort of science fiction one. I've got quite into science fiction recently, and I really enjoy stories set in space. So if anyone has any recommendations for books set in space which have a bit of pace to them and a bit of like kind of plot led maybe, but aren't just war in space, which is a lot of the books that I keep finding are. If someone has recommendations for that, I would be very interested. But yeah, in terms of like new releases and like looking forward, my like top new release that I'm really excited about reading is Making It by Laura Kay. I think I have read all of Laura Kay's books so far. I tend to read them like as soon as they come out, and I tend to absolutely love them. I'm not sure that this one, like as a plot, that I would necessarily pick this one up. And I think for that reason, I don't necessarily remember what the plot is. But for me, there was something about celebdom, or like trying to become a celebrity in some way. And that concept in books, I'm not really that interested in celebrity culture too much. So I don't really get into that as like a concept. But I'm interested just because she's the writer, and I have loved all of her previous books, as I say. So I think it will be a good one, and I was lucky enough to get approved on NetGalley for it, so I'm hoping to read that on my holiday next month, so that'll be good. And in terms of like goals, like I do find a lot of people set bookish goals at the start of the year, and I have traditionally done that. But I do find that I personally feel more like setting goals in the spring, because I feel like that is when, for me, the world wakes up again. In the winter, I'm just like exhausted. I'm like tired. It's like dark. I don't feel like looking to do any big goal or achievement at that time. I don't have the energy. Sometimes I'm just like, the idea of some of these goals seems really tiring at that time of year. But in spring, I have way more energy. I feel way more like, yes, new beginnings. What are we going to do? What's this year going to be? And I read somewhere that there is an old calendar where the spring was the beginning of the new year, but now we celebrate it in January. But to me, it makes more sense to celebrate it in spring. So I would like to do that going forward, maybe like set goals more at that time of year and like look more for the future and look more for the year at that time of year. But this year I'm still kind of like in between things. So my like reading goals for this year into next, I would say, just to kind of be on the same page, is I would like to read between 10 and 12 books in Icelandic. I set it at, I think, 12 at the start of the year, one for every month of the year. But even if I just read 10, I will be really happy with that. I would like to also reduce my English language books. Like I think I counted the other day, I have on my TBR something like 60 unread books, which is a lot for me. It's a lot more than I've had in a really long time. Maybe ever, I'm not sure. I didn't always like keep a large unread TBR. I read a lot from the library, which affects that. But I also just like, say as a child, we would go and buy maybe 3 or 4 books or something for like the summer reading, or for every so often my mum would just go book shopping and buy some books, and I'd read them, and then I would go and have some more at another time when we went book shopping. And I used the library quite a lot as a teenager because I was just whizzing through books at a pace where like nobody could keep up with that financially. And so I find it quite unusual to have such a large TBR, and I don't really actually enjoy it. I don't find that it brings me joy in the way it brings a lot of people joy. I would prefer to have a much smaller TBR. And so my goal, and it is a goal, and let's see how we get on with it. My goal is to, by summer next year, have my TBR down to 10 to 15 books, I think. I put 10 books. If I have 15, it's not the end of the world, do you know what I mean? Like, to get from 60 anywhere beneath that is going to be really good. So yeah, I would like to get that reduced, and I think there will be maybe some on hauling, but I would like to read a lot of them. Most of them are books that I've picked up within the last couple of years, and I do have interest in reading them, so it's not that I feel that about them. But I think to have such a large TBR just feels unnecessary for me, and I would like to reduce it, as I say. But on the flip of that, I would like to buy some favourites that over the years I have loved, but I've just never got around to buying. Because I do keep like a red collection of books that I really enjoy looking at and like returning to, and just, yeah, the sight of them also sparks like the memory of the book, which, you know, brings me joy. So I would like to replace my unread TBR with more red books. Not that I'm going to have 60 red books I buy, but maybe I'll be buying 10, 15 or something like that, of books that I've read over the last few years and just not had a chance to actually own a copy of. So that's my goal in that regard as well. I think that'd be really nice. And just generally, I would love to just keep enjoying the library and keep going to the library and everything. It is a service that I think is so valuable, and for me, the libraries here are just absolutely fantastic. I can get so many just like brand new English books just from the library. There's not a huge waiting time on a lot of books. I don't know if they just have a really good system in terms of knowing how many people there are and how many copies they might need, or what it is, but I feel really lucky to have such a good library, and I want to make the most of it and keep using it, because it's the kind of public service that if it's not used, they do start to defund these things. And we see just now this summer that Reykjavik City has decided to close the public libraries for roughly 4 weeks in the summer. From memory, it's like 3 to 4 weeks, sometimes a little bit longer, depending on the library branch. And I don't want that to be a trend. I don't want that to happen next year. I don't want that to be something that happens more long term. I don't want the funding to be reduced for these libraries. I think they're a fantastic service, and I want to show my support for them in the best way I know how, which is to keep using them. So that's my aim. I'm really looking forward to it. I'm obviously expecting I'm going to read a lot of books this next year, to be reading 60 books on my physical TBR potentially, and then more from the library, but I don't know. I've got my mojo back with reading just now, so I'm hoping that just stays going and I just keep enjoying my reading and keep up what I'm doing. The last book I read was The Minders by John Mars, and I think I am reading one at the moment called Iceland Invaded, which I'm quite enjoying. It's a non-fiction, strangely enough, but it's a very thin book and it's got pictures. And I do find that quite an interesting topic, like Iceland during the World Wars. So yeah, I'll probably continue with that, and I might pick up another fiction as well, just to keep me on my fiction train that I've been really enjoying. So I think that's really all the updates I've got. That's like the most I can think to say about my reading so far this year. I hope you've enjoyed the video. I hope I can come back and do some more. I do like the idea of doing vlogs and stuff. I haven't really got round to doing any of them, but it's something I would like to do more of. But if not, just like having some wee chatty videos now and again, or talking about some topic in the book community maybe, or deep diving on a certain type of book or something. If you have some particular type of video you'd like to see from me, I'd be very open to hearing about it and would love to hear your ideas. But otherwise, I think I'll just upload things as they come to me, or as I had a wee inkling to do so about a certain topic maybe. Thank you so much for watching today, and I will see you again next time.